I just want to talk briefly about basketball and what's the hardest position for me to decide who's the best player for me to put there, and that's in the power forward position. It's real simple. It's by far the hardest position. They're all difficult because each player brings a little something different to the game. So I like usually the most rounded one. Like I like David Robinson at center because he's more well rounded. He can run the floor. He can shoot outside. He can do it inside. He's the best defensive player, and he's underrated for all that. But it's the hard part about the power forward position is um, you have small ball, you have big ball. Okay, we got that now. But the main part is you got two styles to play in that position, and it's stretch four, which is kind of a new way of doing it. So you got the stretch four, which is a player who can shoot 3-pointers and spread the ball around so that it's easier to let your wings drive to the basket. It spreads the floor. It complicates the defense for the other team because sometimes the big players in the post can't run out and guard the wings as well and don't guard outside shooting as well. They're not as fast. Sometimes they're the best post defender, best under the rim defender, but they're not rim protector, we call it. But they're not the best at guarding in the perimeter. So that complicates things for the other team on defense. And so I like having a stretch four at the four position and having a really good rim protector at center. So, we got Charles Barkley. You got Charles Barkley's a little bit of an undersized uh, power forward, and actually I haven't thought of it until now. But does he fit to the stretch four role? Because I've heard him say himself that Bird's a better shooter than him, and other people are better shooters than him, and he's referring to from the outside. But if you look at Charles Barkley's shooting statistics, he's better than almost anybody. So is Kevin McHale, but maybe they shot a lot under the basket. But I'm thinking Charles. It's been a while since I've studied him. I'm thinking he shot in and out, inside and out, pretty good. But I like percentage. I like field goal percentage. So I like on offense. I do like Charles Barkley because he's effective. He doesn't miss many shots. He takes good shot selection. That could be from shot selection, just like LeBron and some other players. They take smart shots where they're going to make more than they miss. So that's their statistics show that, or at least close to at least 50%. But Charles is well over 50%. So he makes more than he misses. Think of that. So that's where, for instance, I'll just point this out again. That's why I don't rate Kobe as high as a lot of people. It's because he misses more than he makes, according to the stats. So there's a lot of people that miss more than they make by only at 49% rate that are really good, but he's more like 46, some years 44%. And that to me is that's too many misses. And that affects the team because you miss a basket and the other team goes and makes a basket, you know, you lose the game, right? And so Kobe, if you got too many shooters doing that, you can lose a game for the team, right? If you got bailed out, if you won, you got bailed out by some of your other players, or your defense was great, right? So it comes down to that: who makes the most points. So it's a big stat in my view, and my view is on that I think accurate, but my assessment. So do I like Tim Duncan? I'm going to finish with this. Do I like Tim Duncan style wise, or do I like Kevin Garnett style wise at power forward? I kind of like Kevin Garnett because I have Tim Duncan at my center position. Matter of fact, I would put Tim Duncan at center, and I would want Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Garnett, LeBron James, Larry Bird. Um, I would say Kevin Durant, but I don't see him as a power player. I see him as a finesse player. But LeBron can do both, mostly power even. But and some people say LeBron doesn't have many moves or whatever. He has a spin move and some other things which you could call finesse. He doesn't. He does. It looks very mechanical when he does his spin move, but very coordinated. So I wouldn't call that finesse exactly, but it is. It fits under finesse when he does his spin move. But he has some moves. He's just You wouldn't call him. He doesn't look super finesse type. And Jordan looks finesse partly because he has such big hands and can palm the ball and things like that. Whereas LeBron's going to drop the ball every now and then. He'll drop the ball. Does that have to do with the fact that he has smaller hands? Partly, I'm not saying he has small hands, but he doesn't have like a talented or a skill of being able to grab the ball as easy as Jordan. Jordan had really big hands. So that's something he used. I mean, Jordan used that to his advantage too. So, I think of players like Herschel Walker. I didn't mean to get off the subject, but Herschel Walker was excellent with it. But his one weakness was he would fumble. He fumbled more than average, I guess. I don't know if that's accurate, but he was known for sometimes fumbling the ball. But so I like. It kind of depends on matchups. Like I can't say who's the best player because it depends on matchups a lot of the time. But Charles Barkley certainly gets underrated, but partly because he's undersized, partly because some would say he was not consistent on defense throughout the first 3 quarters. But he showed up in the fourth quarter on defense, right? So I'm just going to end by saying the power forward position. It's tough to choose my players because we overlook some things. Kevin Garnett's been overlooked, but he's considered. He can play the stretch four. He can shoot the 3-pointers, and he's good on defense and in the post and shooting in the post. He's good at both. That's why I would call him underrated because of that. I mean, Tim Duncan won all these championships. Garnett won championships, but Garnett's right up in there. He's been typically put right in there. And I want to make a video on this next point, but I want to say, I've had people, when I said something about Wilt not having a lot of players, I had a person trying to call that blatantly false, calling it like as if it's a lie or something. And look, my knowledge, this guy knew his stuff and listed some things I learned from him when he responded to me. But I don't know everything. First of all, don't have the best memory, but I shouldn't be disqualified because I'm a person from talking. So these are people that don't want the freedom of speech and they don't want to be challenged. And so the fact that I'm challenging some people who are like avid, it's their specialty. And they stick to it, and this is their only specialty in a sense. They put all their money and all that into learning everything, and some of them, they have good memories too. Not everybody has that great a memory, but you have to, there's a lot of bias that goes with that. And those types of people are the same people who wouldn't want anybody to know Scottie Pippen. They know everything. They know all the stats, and they purposely left out Scottie Pippen on Jordan's team on every subject of Jordan being the greatest of all time. They purposely left out when they're criticizing LeBron's years that he lost. They purposely left out the fact that Jordan never won until Pippen came. They purposely so Jordan was still scoring a lot of points and playing good before that, but he wasn't winning because he didn't have Pippen as part of it, and other players. Pippen's not the only one, but I can't remember them all. He's had Horace Grant, he had Steve Kerr as a 3-point shooter. They got him as players over there, and there's nobody better than Pippen. If you want to talk about the big three, the best big three of all time, we'll talk about the best big two. Magic Johnson had Kareem. The best big two of all time, maybe Magic and Kareem, Pippen and Jordan, or you got Bird and McHale and Dennis Johnson. Bird wasn't by himself. Robert Parrish was a good center. But McHale is underrated. He's by the way, Kevin McHale is one of the power forwards that I put in my greatest all-time list, and he always gets left off. But if you look at his stats and what he did, he is that. But they partially left him off because Bird's always being talked about. So he's another one that I would put there, and his shooting percentage is up there. Of all the people I remember studying 5 years ago on shooting percentage, he was right there with Charles Barkley at the top. Kevin McHale, he's right there at the top. He's the best. He missed the fewest shots of all the players in the NBA in history. He's missed one of the fewest. His stats come out like that. So and he's a good rebounder, good defender. So he's underrated. And but I forgot about somebody else. So you had LeBron and who? What duo that they're really known for? Dwayne was good, but he was injured when LeBron played there. But he still his quality of play didn't go down. It actually went up, but his time on the floor and his endurance went down. So and then so his dependability went down for being on the floor with LeBron. But he worked very well through that with degenerative knees, which is hard to say. But so I can't remember the other duo I wanted to point out. Duos, the best duos. So Kareem is an example. Pippen is an example of being the two best supporting cast players of all time, and Pippen is right there with Kareem on that. If you look at Kareem as being a supporting cast to Magic, but certainly Kareem stood well on his own, and you could say Magic was the supporting cast to Kareem, whereas that wasn't the case with Jordan and Pippen. But Pippen was the main player when Jordan was gone those 2 years, and they almost won still. And he was maybe the lead player in the league the year Jordan was gone. So he could stand on his own. Pippen could. He could. That's how good Pippen is. So I'm not going to try to remember the other two unless it pops in my head. But so Dirk Nowitzki. What team did I have in mind? I forgot. Anyway, but as far as I believe we should be able to challenge, and I don't mean to get back into it, but I'm doing it. I'll say it again when I make the video that's on this topic. But you need people to make sure that the integrity of the game is there, that we're not just being biased. The smartest people can be biased. The smartest people, when I say smartest, I'm talking about rote memory, memorization. And that's what I'm talking about. That doesn't make them the smartest. That certainly doesn't make them the wisest. And wisdom is a different thing. I mean, you don't have to be smart to have wisdom. You don't have to be smart to be honest. You don't have to be smart to assess something where bias could change the results or the perception. So you need people to be able to talk. People like me that aren't the smartest. I admit I'm not the smartest. If I get an error there, and I'm not certain things, I'm not guaranteeing 100% this and that. But with Wilt Chamberlain, the years that he had these good players, this person mentioned, he did win those years. As far as I know. I mean, I don't know the whole history of that. I've studied Wilt, and I've come to find out I've put him as my top center. Now, I just was reminded of something yesterday where I could take him back away from that just because of his free throws. He's a poor free throw shooter, just like Shaquille O'Neal and Dwight Howard. And so I may end up re-evaluating, and that's the thing. I leave it open. There's no 100%. I don't think even Michael Jordan, the closest to 100% you could get might be Michael Jordan because he's that well-rounded. He was a good free throw shooter. He was good at everything, right? So, but he didn't have the size LeBron has, and number two, he didn't spread the ball around like LeBron. So you could call Michael Jordan a ball hog. The only two weaknesses of Michael Jordan, you could call him a ball hog, and you could say he couldn't play center, and LeBron can, and but he had the free throws, and LeBron's not the best he's not the worst, but he's not the best free throw shooter. So, but I would say Jordan's about the closest you could get to perfectly well-rounded. David Robinson is that too, and Kareem is that too. And so when you look at well-rounded, those three guys, and then Hakeem Olajuwon too, I'd say. I don't know. I'd have to double check. I don't remember everything on that, and it's okay that I don't. I like to present the topic. That's the thing. You got these real brilliant people, but they don't present these topics. They get biased, or they go with what's popular. A lot of them get into the sales, and they just say what. And I'm saying that because it's not always them. It's the industry does it. Some of the main leaders do it. They lead them into these topics. They get to choose the topics, and everybody has to go with that topic. And so it's good to hear input from your customers. It's good to hear input from just freelance thinkers. And that's kind of who I am on almost every subject. I'm an analyzer. I do have an engine that keeps analyzing, and I'm trying to get it right, trying to learn. And unfortunately, I have a lot in my brain. I probably have more knowledge in here than a lot of those people. It's hard to recall it. But you bring up something to me. I like to learn that from people because I do more than one side. I'm not just analyzing athletics. I analyze politics. I analyze spirituality. I analyze the real world in real time, and I see the disconnect in the theology of the world, and I join those things together. I try to bring it into reality. There's a lot of stuff we do. People learn in church, people learn in school, and they never apply to reality. So I was going to say earlier, smart people with good memories, a lot of them can't walk out the door without crashing into it. They're clumsy. A lot of them can't play basketball. Some of them can. They all can't. So people get into stereotypes. They just made it Deion Sanders sound like he's not very good at anything after he threw ice on a reporter once. I think they started trashing his name after that. Another thing, Shaquille O'Neal lied for 20 years about David Robinson. So 20 years might not be accurate, but a long time. His whole career almost. He lied about David Robinson, saying he didn't, when Shaquille was in high school or something, that David Robinson wouldn't give him a autograph signature. Would give him an autograph. He lied about that, and the media may have stereotyped and been prejudiced against David Robinson for that. They may have been prejudiced against him because he was Christian instead of Muslim, and which is wrong. I mean, first of all, Islam's a false religion in my assessment. That's my assessment, and you shouldn't be mad that I say it. It's not offensive. It's just my assessment. They don't have a God that rose from the dead. So in other words, we don't know that their God is alive. If it's going to be a real religion, we need some proof that he lives. You can't worship something that's dead and has no power to defeat death. So Jesus when he came down, he proved to everybody. And then most sports players will say, "How dare you talk about this? You can't talk about this." So they're communists and tyrants. But but the truth is, if you want to know the truth about stuff, I seek the truth in everything, in mathematics and science and religion and sports. I'm seeking the truth, right? I'm not the genius. I'm memory wise. I am a genius in tactic wise. I think I'm good at the tactics. I'm good at understanding what works best. I've coached a team I coached the worst team, and no offense to these kids, but 20 something years ago, I didn't coach much, but I coached this one where I was a substitute teacher and worked in the lunchroom. I ended up coaching the elementary. It was a strange age group because it was from 4th grade to 8th grade. And so we ended up being in the championship with the team that had somebody in the 8th grade, but I had 2 players in the 4th grade that we wanted to keep them on the same team because they were twins. And I also had the heaviest, most out of shape player on my team. And the rule was you have to play everybody. But I was playing with 4 players when he was on the court. He couldn't make it up and down the court, but I had to play him. But I did have the best young player on my team, a 5th grader. He was maybe the second best in the league, or possibly the best shooter in the league. And my teams, we taught him to play together, and we had one good rebounder. He was I didn't call him Dennis Rodman, but I remembered how good Dennis Rodman was, and he was featured as a rebounder. This guy rebounded and would pass it to my best shooter. He liked doing that, and that's how I stayed in the game. And I stayed in the game because I didn't do all these drills. We did, what do you call it? Scrimmaging. In practice, we always scrim. I wanted to scrimmage and get them play time and get them to learn each other on the court and learn how it is to play the game full court. And so I was criticized for not doing drills a lot, but I had a person help me do some drills. But in other words, I used tactics that help these guys win. And I played to their strengths, and I wanted them to learn to do that. And that's what you have to do to win and to learn, and you got to be realistic. So I brought reality of the game by playing scrimmages. But so I'm like, man, they'll learn how to pass the ball and do it in full speed in scrimmaging. So you in full court, and I'm there to tell them when they do wrong. It's, drills, all these drills people do, they're going to get plenty of time to do that. But these kids want to win, so I taught them how to win, and they almost won. They almost won the championship, but that eighth grader just edged them out. We missed maybe one shot. It was close. So, so my best player was a fifth grader, and the other team's best player was an eighth grader. And by the way, the two twins that were fourth graders were pretty good shooters. I just kept telling them, they were scared to shoot a little bit, and I kept telling them, shoot it. If they give you the ball, shoot it. You know, and that sounds like kind of like LeBron with his 3-pointers. These guys were good outside shooters in fourth grade, pretty good. So if I hadn't done that, we wouldn't have had a chance. If they didn't shoot, we didn't have a chance. My fourth graders, if they didn't shoot the ball. And so, you know, somebody who can remember all the statistics isn't everything that matters. But, you know, I can always look in the book and refer back to the statistics. Now, you don't have to have the best memory in the world. By the way, I mean, I'm a person who was voted, well, I won't go into that. But these guys, I have to give myself a reason to be allowed to speak. I have to try to tell you who I am and what my talents are. If I'm a B student, I should be thrown in the trash. Or if I didn't study hard, I'd be a C or D student. I mean, I did study hard. So, but I do have subjects I'm good at. Math. Do I need to qualify all this to be able to talk and tell the truth? No. To be able to see past bias, to see stuff you're overlooking about a player. I mean, Kareem is not as athletic as Hakeem Olajuwon, according to my eye test. Now, if I really think about it and you want to pick on me, how much film of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar have I watched? Not a ton. But, and how much of Kareem have I watched? Not a ton, but when I watched the two, what I have seen pretty similar footage of both, and I just see more power, stamina, not stamina, they both had stamina, more power, speed, and a few more moves than Hakeem Olajuwon. He's got a better defensive rating, but David Robinson has a better defensive rating than Hakeem. I know that Hakeem played soccer in high school. And so, anyhow, this was supposed to be about power forwards. Well, I took the time to embellish on my other subjects too. But to me, it's really a conversation. I like to make these things into a conversation, and then I like to do short ones to catch people's attention, because people aren't going to listen to this whole thing. They might not, or they might hear bits and pieces, right? So, but there's a lot of thought still that goes behind how I've evaluated these people, and I'm not always evaluating statistics. I don't have time to watch all the footage of everyone. I do know that Kareem was good in college. Kareem was good in every era he played in. I know that. And so who am I leaving out? Say you could make it between Kareem, David Robinson, and who am I forgetting? For the three most well-rounded players. So Kareem, David Robinson, and Hakeem Olajuwon. Maybe your three most well-rounded players. And I say that because Bill Russell didn't score a lot. These other three guys were scorers, and they were good defenders. All right. So if you want we could say that those three are the only three that qualify for the best, greatest of all time. And I'm sure there's others I'm leaving out. I could say if you put Kevin Garnett and Tim Duncan at center, and they can both play center, they're both technically centers to me. But that'd be your best four. And Shaquille O'Neal's well-rounded too, minus the foul shots. Wilt Chamberlain's well-rounded too, minus the foul shots. So I had Wilt Chamberlain at the top, but I could take him off because of foul shots. But so you got, at power forward, you got Karl Malone, by the way, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, Dennis Rodman's not far from that list. You could put Bill Russell there. I think he played some power forward. I'm not positive. A lot of people put him there in all-star teams. You could see David Robinson could play power forward as a stretch. And he didn't do many threes, but he could, I'm sure. He was a good outside shooter. So you could put David Robinson there. Kareem could probably be a good stretch forward. That's what's another thing that's good about Kareem. And then you could, So you could put, and if you wanted to, then you could have Shaquille O'Neal at center and have Kareem, for example, a lot of the way people like his talent. You could have him at the four and have Shaquille down at the bottom. But I mean, I would put David Robinson at the four before I'd put Kareem, and I'd put him before probably Hakeem Olajuwon, because I think he's a little better outside shooter, David Robinson. But um, Tim Duncan, David Robinson's probably a better outside shooter than Tim Duncan for the stretch. So I almost could put Tim Duncan at center and David Robinson at the four. So they had it the other way around for some reason. It could have been, for all I know, there could have been bias. They might like Tim Duncan for his beliefs or his family or something. Maybe he's a progressive or somebody. I don't know what his beliefs are. I know they didn't like David Robinson too much because he was Christian. So, which I like David Robinson because he's Christian, but I'm not being biased about it. I'm just recognizing he got underrated because he had a short career because he was in the military and because they wanted to give Tim Duncan all the credit. They act like David Robinson didn't exist once Tim Duncan got there. Part of the reason Tim Duncan was so good is because he had David Robinson helping him. I mean, that might be why they have the best defensive rating of all players in history as top players. Center that is in the list of best centers, they have the best defensive ratings in history, maybe, and I think they're number 2 and 3 to one player, and I forget who that was. But he wasn't well known; he's just known for his defense. The guy that has number 1. So it could be that their defense complemented each other, but that's his career rating, and Tim Duncan wasn't there at first, and David Robinson wasn't there for Tim Duncan at the end, and their ratings were still good. So. It's hard to say, but they have their defensive rating, according to the computer, what the computer measures, is better than all the other centers, except for one. You have to look that up sometime. Maybe 2. The guy that played for Detroit. I haven't looked at this stuff in a while. I'm just catching up. Anyway, I'm trying to get caught up on some certain topics. I'm not refreshed on them, but you can tell I've put a lot of thought into things that get overlooked. And so I still can't definitively say who's the best because it depends what team they're on. It's a team sport. And so Jordan didn't win by himself. Bird didn't win by himself. Magic didn't win by himself. LeBron didn't win by himself, but most of the time he almost did. He was never by himself, right? But I think he didn't have as good a teams as some of these other players that did win a lot, right? And no, Wilt he didn't have as good a team as Bill Russell for the most of the time. And it's well known that Bill Russell had a good team, but you never hear about it. But it is well known by people who do know, by people who won't mention it even. And it's well known by people that Jordan had Scottie Pippen, and they never mention that. They're being compelled to mention it now because of people like me. So when they find me forgetting something, this one person who criticized me and went to the level of saying it's blatantly false is what they said. That's blatantly false. That Wilt Chamberlain never played on good teams. Did I say hardly ever or never? So maybe I did say never, and that would be an overstatement. So if you want to have me fired and silenced because I made that statement, fine. But the challenge is, let's talk about it. How good Wilt was and how he got underrated. Did he not have it play on many good teams? You never want to talk about how the teams are stacked up. Everybody tried to make sure LeBron James wouldn't have a good team. They've even played tricks. They're always playing tricks, even when the writers do it. And I don't know if the scouts and everybody listens to them. I think they listen to certain writers. That's why I write. I try to influence them. I told them back when LeBron went to Miami, I kept telling Miami, get Andre Iguodala, get Sean Livingston, I told them to get these players, literally. And there was one other player. I said, get this player. And guess what? Golden State got all those players. And because, by the way, I'm writing their website, and the websites are all owned by the NBA. So somebody on the inside there may have been listening to me and what I was pointing out. Look at their shooting percentage. I was doing that back then. Look at their shooting percentage, and they're good on defense. And so Sean Livingston didn't score a lot of points, but he had a good shooting percentage, and he's good on defense. And he helped the team. Andre Iguodala was good on defense, and he had a good shooting percentage. So I think they listened to me, but they gave it to the other team to make sure LeBron didn't get the best team. So I think that there's stuff like that that's going on to stop LeBron and act like he got all these good players, and it's not fair for him to have a good player. So they'll promote a 3-point shooter with bad shooting who's bad on defense all the time. They do that. Bye. I got to go.